Dear all, good morning. Now we will study B.Sc third year Zoology paper 21st, that is numbered 601. In this paper we will see the 8th chapter, that is the fossils. In this fossil we will see the definition as well as the fossil formation and types of fossils. Dear friends, before studying in detail about the fossils, you should know about the various mass extinction of the organisms since the remote past. There are five mass extinctions which have been passed or took place in the remote past, that is 5 mass extinctions. The first mass extinction, which is passed in the Ordovician period, next one in the Devonian, third mass extinction in the Permian and Triassic, fourth mass extinction in the Triassic and Cretaceous, and fifth in the Cretaceous and Tertiary period. What happened in case of this mass extinction? Large number of animals as well as the plants totally disappeared from the earth's surface, and these organisms disappeared from the earth's surface, and now these organisms we obtain from the earth. When we dug up the earth, we observed the remnants of these animals as well as the plants. That remains of the animals which is dug up from the earth, which is called as the fossils. Actually, the fossils, which is the Latin word, that is the fossolium, that means the something that is the dug up, that is the dead remains of plants and animals preserved in the remote past, or simply it is defined as remains of once living organism, or that is the remnants of the living organism of the remote past. That is the simple definition of the fossils. And these dead remains of plants and animals preserved in the rock of the remote past, which provides the direct evidences in support of the theory of the organic evolution. Now question arises how it support to the theory of the organic evolution. For that purpose, we should have to compare these fossils of the remote past with the existing animals that will give rise the answer. And therefore, these fossils, when we compare it with the existing animal, definitely it gives certain information about the step-by-step evolution of the animals, about the gradual orderly change of the organisms from one condition to the other condition. Or we can simply say that is the descent with modification. And thus these fossils plays an important role in support of the organic evolution. Simply remember that the definition of the fossils, that is the remains of once living organism, which is called as the fossils. And study of fossils, it is called as the paleontology, or the paleontology which deals with the finding, cataloging and interpretations of the fossils, which gives the information about the organisms of the remote past as we compare it with the existing animals supposed to the theory of the organic evolution. Now next we'll see about the formation of the fossils. There are three ways of the formation of the fossils. That three ways of the formation of the fossils, that is the fossil formation by waterborne sedimentary burial, fossil formation in ice and snow burial at the polar region, and third one, that is the fossil formation by the geological events containing the amber. Whatever it may be the method or major ways of the formation of the fossils, these fossils mainly which are formed in the sedimentary rocks. Mainly it is formed in the sedimentary rocks. Friends, why these fossils are formed only in the sedimentary rocks, not in the metamorphic rock, not in the igneous rock? Now see here, in case of the sedimentary rocks, these are the various sides of the sedimentary rocks. These sedimentary rocks which shows the layers, first layer, second layer, third and so on up to the highest layer. Or see here in this figure, that is the rock which is formed in the Cambrian period, Devonian period, Mississippian period, Peninsulian period, and highest strata, that is the Permian period. These sedimentary rocks which are formed by deposition of the sediments which are present in the water, or deposition of the sands, deposition of the mud, as well as various other minerals, and therefore these fossils, which are observed only in the sedimentary rocks and not in the metamorphic rocks. Metamorphic rocks, that is the slates or the marbles, and no any fossils which is found in the marbles or the slates. Whereas in case of the igneous rocks, that is in case of the igneous rocks, that is the forms the clusters, and in case of these clusters or the granite, there is absence of the fossils. Specifically in case of these sedimentary rocks, the youngest rock which is present in the higher strata, and as we move from the higher strata to the lower strata, towards the lower strata, there is presence of the oldest rock. That means these layers, from the lower layer to the higher lower strata to the higher strata, it also shows the formation of the fossils. If this is the lowest strata, in the lower strata definitely there is a presence of the oldest fossils. If the fossil which is present in the upper layer or the higher strata, that means that is the recent fossils, and thus the formation of the layer which shows the age of the fossils. If it is present towards the lowest layer, it is the oldest fossil, and if it is present in the highest layer, it is the recent fossil. Now see here, this is the lake. In the lake there is a first layer, second layer, third layer, stages of the layer which are goes on increasing, and if these fossils which is present in the lowest layer, that is the oldest fossil, and if it is present in the upper layer, that is the recent fossil. Thus the fossils which are present only in the sedimentary rocks and not in the metamorphic or the igneous rocks. These are the various sides of the sedimentary rocks. Now we'll see about how the fossils are formed by the burial, by the waterborne burial. Now see here, you know very well in case of the dinosaur which is the animal and which is flourished during the Paleozoic era, evolved from the Paleozoic era and flourished in the Mesozoic era, particularly in the Jurassic period. In the Jurassic period, this dinosaur, that is the flourished in the Jurassic period, but because of certain geological events, these dinosaur which is flourished during the Jurassic period, it is completely disappeared after the Cretaceous period, that is near about 65 million years back. Why this is so? This is because of the certain geological events. And when these animals dies, you know very well the lifespan of each and every organism, it is fixed, and after the completion of the lifespan, each and every animal dies, or death of the animal, it is truth, that is the universal truth. After the death of the animal, what will happen? You know very well. After the death of the animal, the soft tissues of the bodies, such as the skin, muscles, various other protoplasmic part of the body, it is disintegrate, decays, degenerates because of certain actions of the microorganisms such as the bacteria as well as the fungi, various other scavengers, and these animals, the soft body, which is soft parts of the body, it is completely totally disappear, and hard parts which are present in the form of the teeth, which are present in the form of the bones, which are present in the form of the claws, in some other cases the scales, scutes, which are preserved in the sedimentary rocks. Friends, after the decaying of these soft parts, only the hard parts, that is the bones, which is preserved, and these bones sometimes intact, or mostly it is detached from the body, and that detached parts of the bones, it is along with the rain flurries, floods, riverine water, it is carried to the lakes or the rivers, or sometimes towards the shallow waters. Along with that flood or the rainwater. What happens when these carried towards the lakes or the shallow waters of the seas or in the rivers? It rests at the bottom. And you know very well, in the water there is a presence of various sediments of the minerals which get deposited on these hard parts of the body, that is the bones, scales, claws, teeth, and it get buried in the sedimentation of the various minerals, mud, sand, and so on. Sometimes what happens, through through this sands deposition or sedimentation, the water percolates on this skeleton. Through the sands or mud layers on the body. Along with that water, some microorganisms, fungi, also enters towards the skeleton, towards the burial of that organism. It may be any other animal. What happens because of these microorganisms or the scavengers? These hard parts also consumed by the microorganism, fungi, bacteria, and so on. As a result, what happens? These skeletal parts also decomposed, and which is replaced by the minerals such as the iron oxide, iron pyrites, sulfurs, malacites, silica, and as a result it becomes stone like, as like this, and these total parts it becomes stone like, and it gives the shape of that particular organism. And thus the burial of the animal which is dug out, which gives rise the information in support of the organic evolution. Now this is the one way of the formation of the fossils. That is the formation of fossil by waterborne burial. Another method, that is the formation of fossils, that is the ice and snow burial. In case of the waterborne sedimentary burial, we have seen that that animal which is carried towards the water bodies. But in case of the fossil formation by the ice and snow burial at the polar region, you know very well there are presence of the certain scavengers, and that scavenger, after the death of that animal, which is consume that dead body of that organism, soft parts of the body of that organism, it is consumed by the scavengers. It is mostly consumed by that scavengers. But what happens if there is absence of the scavenger? If there is a absence of the microorganisms which acts upon that dead body, because of the low temperature, these bodies of the organism, it is completely buried in the ice and snow, and sometimes which if we dug out this dead body, it is very well preserved in the ice and snow, and it is such type of the burial which is observed in the polar region, Antarctica. Next type of the fossil formation by geological events. You know very well the huge pine trees of the remote past which are buried and which are obtained nowadays in the form of the coal. But you know very well, in case of such type of the huge pine trees, there is a which releases the resins and the gums, and that resins and gums in the coal mines, when it is buried because of certain geological events, it forms the umber, and within that umber there is a some pollen grains, floral parts, as well as the small sized insects are also observed in the lumps of umber, which are very well preserved. Thus, the animal which are preserved in the umber, as well as the animals or the fossils which are buried in by the ice and the snow in the at the polar region, as well as the waterborne sedimentary burial of the fossils, which are the three major ways of the formation of the fossils. Now we'll see about the types of the fossils. In case of the types of the fossils, there are actually 5 types of the fossils, and the 6th one, that is the naturally preserved specimens. It is actually the one of the way of the formation of the fossils, and therefore actually the 5 types of the fossils and 6th one, that is the naturally preserved specimen, it is also considered as the type of the fossil. Thus there are 6 types of the fossils. These are the hard parts, petrified fossils, molds and cast, compressions and impressions, footprints, and naturally preserved specimen. We will see one by one. At first, the hard parts. Now you know very well the hard parts Whatever it may be the hard parts of the body, that is the bones, nails, horns, claws, cells, scales, only these hard parts of the body which are preserved in the sedimentary rocks, and all other parts of the body, it is disappeared by the action of the microscopic organisms which eat away the soft body parts such as the skin as well as the flesh. And these hard parts of the body which gives a lot of information about the organic evolution, and thus as we compare it with the existing animals, it supports to the theory of the organic evolution. Next, that is the petrified fossils. These petrified fossils are also formed in the sedimentary rocks, and these fossils or the fossilized material are converted into the stones because the protoplasmic substance of each cell, it is replaced by mineral particles, and these mineral particles such as the iron oxide, iron pyrites, sulfur, silica, malachite, which replace the soft part of the body and it becomes hardened like to that of the stone. And such process of conversion of the fossilized material into the stones, it is called as the petrifactions, or the fossils which is obtained, which is dug out, it is called as the petrified fossils. Some of the examples of the petrified fossils, see here, these are the cells, molluscan cells of the remote past and which is converted into the stones. And these fossilized material of the cells of the molluscan cell which is converted into the stones, it is called as the fossils. It is called as the petrified fossils. And such type of the petrified fossils which are obtained from the lower strata of the sedimentary rocks, because you know very well these molluscans, particularly the invertebrate, had been evolved during the Proterozoic era, and such type of the Proterozoic fossils mostly which is converted into the stones, and that fossils which are called as the petrified fossils. These are the some examples. Another slides, that is the See here, these are also petrified fossils. Here, these are the fossils which are obtained from the different sites. These are the cells of the different mollusks. Now, third type, molds and cast. Now, in case of the molds and cast, these are the formed in the mud and sand, which become hardened into slates or the stones. In this fossil, the central portion of the material is not preserved at all, and the cavity which is formed as a result of the disintegration of the central tissues and hardening of the material surrounding a buried organism is subsequently filled by the hard minerals and mud, and thus forming a cast. Soft bodies animals are known only from their cast and impressions, and they have left. Cast are valuable fossils because they give good idea about the external shape of the organism. Friends, now see here, this is the mold and this is the cast, which is formed by the replacement of the organism by the hard minerals such as the iron oxides, iron pyrides, silica, melasites, and so on. Surrounding part, it becomes hardened and it forms a cavity. That cavity, it is called as the molds, and internal parts which is replaced by the hard minerals converted into the stones, it is called as the cast. Thus molds and cast, it also shows as evidences in support of the organic evolution. Now next, that is the compression and impression, which are the found in the sedimentary rocks. The external form of the material is modified by the vertical pressure overlying the sediments in which the material is entombed. In compression, the original shape of the material is changed and material become hardened. In the plant part, if it is the cylindrical, it is converted into the elliptical shape because of the vertical pressure. And if the rock containing compressed fossil is broken into two parts, in which one part is containing the fossils and the other half contains the impression, and thus that compression and the compression, that is the change in the shape because of the vertical pressure converted into hard rock, and the impression, that is the imprints. Thus this compression and impression are also plays an important evidences in support of the organic evolution. We'll see also some compressions and impressions of the, these are the impressions of the some leaves of the plants of the remote past. These are the impressions of the fishes on the sedimentary rocks. It is also impression of the fish of the remote past. That is the reptilian, that is the compression of the remote past reptilian. Next type, that is the footprints. In case of the footprints, which is the formed by the volcanic eruptions. You know very well, in case of the volcanic eruption, there is presence of hot red lava, and temperature of that hot red lava, it is too much, but when it becomes dead, at that time that hot red lava, it becomes cooled down to the normal, and if any animal run out from this cooled magma of the volcanic eruption, it gives rise certain impressions which are called as the, or which is converted into the permanent carvings, and that permanent carvings of the foot of that animal, it is called as the footprints. That footprints also serves as evidences in support of the organic evolution. Next one, that is the naturally preserved specimen as described previously. One way, that is the preservation or the fossils or preservation of the dead animal in the near to the lake, river, or the shallow seas by the rain flurries or the floods, and which are buried in the sedimentary rocks, which also serves as a, or that is the natural ways of the formation of the fossil. Most of the fossils which are obtained by this way, by the rain flurries, burial into the sedimentary rocks. Beside this, another method, that is the naturally preserved specimens, that is the at the polar region, the landmass which is covered by thick layer of the ice and snows. These animals which are consumed by the predators and scavengers after the death. However, when the dead body is covered with ice, the process of petrifaction is prevented due to low temperature, and this is completely buried in the ice and snow in the absence of decay and disintegration. And during the excavation in such place, the paleontologists or we get the such bodies that are thus preserved in the excellent conditions. Some of the examples of this polar preservation, a naturally preserved specimen, that is the well-known story of the mammoth. In case of the mammoth, that is the living organism that is near about 10,500 years back. But nowadays it is completely, totally extant, disappeared from the Earth's surface, that is near about 10,500 years back. And there are complete evidences as a ancestor to the existing elephants. Story about the mammoth is that the fossil of this mammal, which is very well preserved, which is observed in the Siberia, total body hairy body as well as the internal tissues, which are very well preserved in the snow and ice of the Siberia polar region. That woolly mammoth, which was or within the uterus of that woolly mammoth, the paleontologists observed the fertilized egg. And that fertilized egg of the woolly mammoth, female woolly mammoth, paleontologists and scientists transform into the uterus of the present day elephants. What happened later on, it is totally or completely in the dark. Thus, the natural preservation of the specimen in the polar region of the mammoth, not only the mammoth, various other polar bears, polar fox, polar rabbit are also observed, which are very well preserved in the low temperature of the polar region, which are buried under the snow and ice. Thus, this burial under the snow and ice, in part or total preservation of these animals, it is observed in the polar region, which also serves as evidences in the support of the organic evolution. Next, as previously described, that is the lumps of the amber, which is preserves the insects, seeds of the plants, as well as the pollen grains, floral parts, and which also serves as evidences in support of the organic evolutions. Friends, you know very well the story of the film, that is the Jurassic Park, which is totally based on such type of the insects which is preserved in the lumps of the insects. These insects which sucks the blood of the dinosaur, and that blood which is present in the intestine and stomach of the insects, which is very well preserved, and from that blood the chromosome of that dinosaur, which is utilized by the scientist, and thus from that chromosome the entire animal, that is the dinosaur, which is developed. That means this preservation it plays an important role in support of the organic evolution. These are the lumps of amber which preserves these various types of the insects, and thus naturally preserved specimens are also the types of the fossils, that is burial in the sedimentary rocks, burial in the polar region, as well as preservation in the amber are also the supports to the theory of the organic evolution. Thus there are six types of the fossils. Last, that is the significance. These fossils, which are the concrete proof giving the best support to the theory of the organic evolution by comparative studies of various body parts. It may be the limbs as well as the various other skeletal parts, fingers, toes. When we compare it with the existing animals, it gives the information about the descendant of that organism of the remote past when we compare it with the existing animal or the descendants. These are the various sites of the Maharashtra, which are Mohagaokalan locality as well as the Nagpur locality, and the Yavatmal locality. These are the various sites of the sedimentary rocks where we observed the fossils. Thank you. We'll meet in the next lecture and new topic. Thank you.